You know, I think like one of the wealth wisdoms I heard was like, you know, we should be working to buy back time. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Yeah. So it's so crucial. Like, and I think like obviously with the stuff I do with my church and with my guys, you know, those things require like physical energy. You know, let alone family and now another child, more physical.
Welcome to another episode of Everyday Leadership, and today it's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure, you know, having great, wonderful conversations with people that you need to get to know. And today is another one of those people. I've got like husband, father, like pastor, writer, pioneer, founder, photographer. Like the accolade could just like real talk here. He's doing bits in so many different areas. Yes. But we're just going to start with just call him Brother Ayokunu.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great, sir. I'm alive. I'm well. It's a new day, so we give God thanks, man. I'm doing well, man.
You know what? And normally I go way back, and with you in particular, I thought I'm going to go with a name. Like okay. Your name has a very special meaning, which obviously yes, you can break down. But I guess my question is, does that name also come with some pressure to live up to it?
I feel like my name is just intrinsic to who I am, you know. I feel like when they named me, they were really they were really led by what it is that they should call me by. So I feel like I live out my name, you know, rather than having to live up to my name. So I think it's just something that's just intrinsic to who I am, and everybody feels that demarcation when they encounter me. That if I tell them what my name means, they'll be like, yeah, that's definitely the story of my.
Tell the people the full name, the full meaning. Come on.
So my name is Ayokunu. It's just Yoruba, and it means the Lord fills my heart with joy. So if you're watching me right now, you can see there's a big, nice smile on my face. This is like my permanent signature, you know. So literally, like if you wouldn't see me frowning. If you see me frowning, man, the world is ending. But I'm a smiley fella, man, literally. So yeah.
That's something I can definitely attest to. Like every single time me and I have had a conversation the last couple of years, the smile's always been there. Like always, and that's something that's always just resonated, that you embody. It's quite interesting when, especially Nigerians, the name's a declaration over your life. And it's always quite good to see people like living out that declaration and naturally, because that was the prophecy over you.
100%.
And when you think about the creativity that you have and the different things that you're involved with, I mean, it's a lot. How do you, in fact, which one do you prioritize the most?
Prioritize the most? That word priority. Literally, man. You got me thinking about that diagram. What's important? What's not so important? What? So yeah. I mean, they all have their own remits. Where I can comfortably say now, based on how I structured my life, and maybe I could say the season I'm in now of my life, where one's not so much the most important than the other. They just have a place where I give them the adequate, time they need for what it is that they're serving in this time of my life. So something that my wife taught me that really helped me to where I am now is the whole top 3 thing. Because I used to have a to-do list, guys, that was like this long, and I was a guy that would do the easy things first. And I'm sure we all did it until I learned doing the harder things first was much more accomplishing to get the easy stuff done later. So what I used to do was become overwhelmed with what I was doing. So my wife used to be, look, Monday, top 3. What did you get done today? Even more so, actually, like it got to a point where I had to dedicate days to the week to certain things that I do. So Mondays, men's stuff. Tuesday was that photography. Wednesday was kind of like off day / check-in with church members. Thursdays, photography. Friday, church work prep. So I actually separate my responsibilities into days now. That's because I that's been giving myself more blockage of time to be realistic with my targets. So to say that I had one prioritize over the other, I'm like, nah, the priority in my life is me. Am I okay? I'm all right.
Love it.
that's the priority. If I can do, if I'm okay, then what I need to do will serve its purpose. You know what I mean? So that's my honest answer. I can't say photography is more important. I feel it all serve a need that I need to do. That I prioritize myself to make sure that I show up to do what I need to do. So yeah.
That's why I like using that word, because it always gets people like, oh, I don't want to prioritize. This is, but it sounds quite interesting, isn't it, to see how people approach that? Because we live in a world that tells you, oh, you need to prioritize this. But actually, we don't always have to actually do that. Like you said, they all serve different needs and different purposes. And you've taken that time, which is that intentionality of, okay, I know I want all of this, so how do I make it work? And your wife gave us some great advice for you, but that point you made around prioritizing yourself first, I think a lot of times we forget to do that and we focus on everything else. But we are the ones that are flowing into those things. And if we're not looking after ourselves, I always say like lead self, lead others. If you're not looking after yourself first, you can't do the others to the best of your ability. That never makes any sense.
At all, literally, and I'm still a work in progress in that area, but I've seen how my efficiency finds its foundation in that 100%. And like you said, sometimes how we phrase or the language we use can really throw us off when it comes to what it means to prioritize. I know it's a genuine, positive thing to say, but if we're going to look at what it actually means in its context of your life, it's more about you prioritizing, especially now with COVID, the situation that we've been, well-being, being able to actually show up, because a lot of us have been living at the mercy of what we do rather than what we do and being something that's just extended from who we are. Is that whole who you are versus what you do kind of complex kind of thing, where sometimes we define ourselves by what we do but not who we are. So we lived burnt out rather than being wise enough to take Sabbaths or breaks, or knowing our limits, knowing ourselves more, so knowing how we can see the signs of like, okay, I'm turning out now, I need to reset, I need to refresh, you know what I mean? So that's a work in progress, because I like to work, working for me is, I'm a man, it's energizing, but at the same time, it's not overexerting yourself to the point of no use, you know what I mean, or efficient use, should I say, to what it is that you've been called to do. So yeah.
I'm curious, what when you were younger, what was the plan at that point in time? Because I'm curious, like, how do you learn doing that? Pastor of a church, photography studio, everything else that you do right now. Well, what was the trajectory that got you to that?
I'm really honest with you, like growing up, so I'm the eldest of three. I don't think. Like, looking back, I'm like, babes, I think I need to take some tests. I don't know if I had ADHD. I don't know if I had this. I think I'm shocked. I wasn't a lot of. I had the in class, you sometimes have the person that helps you, the coach, they used to call them. What do they call? I can't remember.
The TA, the teaching assistant.
I used to have one of those like throughout my primary school years, because apparently I was disruptive or didn't concentrate or whatever. Hindsight now, I was just a lot more expressive with how I learned and how I tune information, but I wasn't suited for the academic of, what I'm saying, X, 1, 2, 3, 4, X, Y, and Z. So growing up, I didn't really I didn't really have maybe context or language to having that aspiration to what it is I wanted to become. I was just I don't know. I don't know what word to use, but I was just going through the motion of school and doing whatever I was doing, kind of thing. Honest with you, typically like music, like sports, all those sort of things. But there was no this like, when I grew up, I want to be a X, Y, and Z. I don't have any fun memory of that, but I have fun memories of dancing or drawing or just doing things that I look back now that are probably much more creative expression rather than reading or studying or whatever kind of academia sort of stuff. So fast forward to like A levels, if I'm honest, and I was so the area of my subject matter that I was good at in school was English. I was in top set for English and English lit, so I had a way of writing from, I don't know where it came from, but that's just how it was. So when I got to A level time, they encouraged me to go towards like the media production journalism sort of route. So I just followed my advice from my teachers. Didn't really have any sort of like, aspiration. At that time, I was torn between, kind of like a street life versus academic life as well at that time. So I really didn't have any value for education like that, if I'm going to be honest. But when I got to A levels, I had a media studies teacher who saw that I was really good at media, and he was the one that encouraged me to apply for the university called Ravensbourne, which specialises in media production and design and also fashion. So based in O2 London now. So once again, he was the one that, and the way he spoke to me that day, I'll never forget it. Like, it was the first time where I felt like, somebody actually believes in me and sees something in me that I don't see. So that gave me the energy to pursue it, and literally I got into the university. Quite hard to get into as well. Got into it, and that's where my media sort of creative pursuit started from. So that's age 17. So up until age 17, I can't give you a description of what I want to be when I grow up. But from that encounter of that teacher, he put me on a path where through that course, I just got expanded to other things that now I'm doing what I'm doing now. Literally, so yeah, so the other stuff is another story, but yeah, that's the main part that I would say that kind of gave me some sort of direction or some sort of meaning or purpose to what it is that I'm doing here. So yeah, so God bless Mr. Guest.
Wherever you are, God bless you, man. Because now, I mean, when I think about part of the work you do right now with the pictures that you take, for example, as a photographer,
yes.
And obviously bearing in mind, this is just not, people can call themselves photographers nowadays because you've got iPhones going through here. My man is like wedding, portraits, commercial, award winning, traveled around the world. This is what he does.
Yeah.
And there's something about the work that you do where it's like, there's a beauty behind the pictures that you take. And it takes a particular way of looking at things and looking at people to be able to capture them in that light. And I'm curious as to where and how you actually nurture that skill and that side of you. When you pick up a camera and you take a picture, like, what do you think about to get that?
Yeah, to get that. Yeah, so I do think it's twofold. I do think there's a innate ability when it comes to that, where you just have a unique way of seeing things, and I would say that I am quite divergent in my thoughts when it comes to what is normal or what is considered standard. So I think that really allows me to look at something and see something beyond what the average Joe will probably see when they see that. And the nurture element, if I'm really honest with you, is just experience. Like, I mean, practice and failed. In my early years of photography, man, looking back now, I'm thinking, man, what was I doing? Like, and I was the sort of guy, where if I would just take something. If I know the basis of it, I would just go and just learn it myself. When I say I'm self-taught, guys, I'm literally like self-taught photographer. Trial and error was my teacher, honestly speaking. That merged with a few other peers that I really let them work, and obviously you research your craft, or you always look at other people that are ahead of you and whatnot. But I just allowed the experience of exploring, adventuring what I was doing to really allow me to nurture that ability to perceive things in a particular way and catch it in a particular way. That merged with technical skill as well. You need to learn how to use a camera, you need to learn the basics of light and all that sort of stuff. Allowed me to actualize the image I see in my mind when I'm actually shooting. So yeah, literally, that's what I would say was the honing of it. So something like weddings, because it's so momentary, the skill of being able to anticipate the next moment is so key. So as a photographer, literally in our minds, I can predict based on my experience what's going to happen next. So I know where to position myself, how to frame it, where to shoot it, and I eventually get my my image. So that will only come by way of experience and also developing skill as well. So yeah, that's what I would say allows me to capture certain things, allows people like yourself to call it art, or to think, wow, it's innate, but it's nurtured through experience, merged with technical skill set, and yeah, that's just allowing yourself to explore different things that will allow you to think and look at self differently. So most photographers would probably study another discipline in photography that's not related to what they do, just to keep their minds fresh and how they shoot, because there's a way they were told to shoot fashion, but how they shoot event photography may give you another perspective to how this should be looked like in fashion. You know, it's all about exposing yourself to different things, allow you to see everything differently, you know. So yeah.
What happens when you don't nurture that part of yourself? The reason why I ask this is I know a number of people who are like with photographers, different things like that, who obviously during COVID weren't working, and they found themselves kind of, which is surprised to me, falling out of love with photography. And when things started to open back up again and they said they picked up the camera, they found it quite hard to get back into it because of just, I guess, anger, frustration, and annoyance. I've been to work for a number of years, it's been hard, all that kind of stuff. And they kind of, in a sense of what, they took it out on the camera, which obviously it's just the object, but I can understand where that sentiment kind of came from. So I'm kind of curious, like, what is it, especially in that period of time, how did you keep that love and that interest going when you couldn't work?
That's a good question. I think, if I'm honest with you, during that time, because of all the other things that I do, it does give me more time to do other things, if I'm going to be really honest with you. And because of how long, because bear in mind, when COVID happened, I've probably been shooting maybe 8 years now or 9 years now. I feel like I'm at a stage in my career where I just know to do what I do off by heart. You know, it's a part of who I am. So it wasn't so much so I don't like doing this anymore or whatever kind of thing. It was just a thing of whereby I got more time to explore other areas because I got other stuff that I want to build, and I really was at a stage in photography, if I'm honest with you, where I'm like, you know what, I want to switch from doing this photography, that photography, to teaching and doing this one because I need more time here and there. I'm in another phase of my life, so it wasn't that difficult for me when it came to opening up and shooting again, because I think I was at a mastery stage of photography where it's just like, you know what, I know what to do and how to do it well, and I can do it without having to feel like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't want to do it. The discipline of it was just, that's honesty. So, and because I'm doing other things, I understand why I do photography. I need to do that because that's going to help me fund what I'm doing here. So there's purpose and the why is attached to it that just keeps the engine running. So, you know, I did make a decision after COVID that this year and going to next year will be my last year doing wedding photography. And I think the main reason behind that was just the beauty of the time that I got to have on the weekends with my partner. And obviously now I've got a son as well, and obviously I have church on Sundays, and my church started just before COVID came into existence. I had to evaluate my lifestyle and like, what am I doing right now? Is it going to serve me well in other areas? I think I may have to give up this area of photography and focus on other areas. And I did it in my heart, wanted to move towards a teaching workshop paradigm, because I felt like I've had my time was up doing certain things of photography. I thought, you know what, it's going to be 10 years this year now. So, you know what, the next phase is coming, you know what I'm saying? So, and that next phase for me now was more towards the men work that I do. I wanted to spend more time there because I thought, you know what, nah, this season I'm in right now, I feel like this is the area that needs more of my focus and energy. So I'm at a stage of my career, photography wise, where the goal was to, you know, work less but earn more or earn good amounts. So where I can, like, you know what, I can say no and then structure this time and have certain clientele and then focus on this work and maybe work jobs that will bring enough revenue that I'd have to work a certain amount and just focus on hair. So that's my story of COVID and photography. Yeah, it caused me to drop one and focus on other areas.
No, that's dope though. I think it's a powerful one actually, because there are times when you can end up holding on to something for whether it's lack of or fear, anxiety, or whatever reason, and being able to have that decision of like, you know what, I need to drop certain things so I can prioritize on other areas, especially my family, which are super important to me, is something that is one, feels good to actually hear, and two, that thought is so important. I mean, we can spend time working because like I'm providing for my family, or we can be like, well, actually there are other things I could do which could bring in more income and I can give that time to dedicate to actually spend physically with my family.
Yeah.
It's a whole different way of thinking about things. So that for me is a really, really powerful move.
Oh man, awesome. Yeah, no, you know, I think like one of the wealth wisdoms I heard was like, you know, we should be working to buy back time. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Yeah, so it's so crucial. It's like, and I think like obviously with stuff I do with my church and with my guys, you know, those things require like physical energy, you know, let alone family and now another child, more physical energy. And photography is a very physically demanding job, guys. You know, you're on your feet for a wedding 14 hours a day, like actually on your feet, you know what I mean, kind of thing. So they're traveling up and down and shooting or whatever, and then that's just half the job. You come home to edit, it's another couple of, so it's just about, I find it, you know, a beautiful opportunity to be able to be like, you know what, because I am a freelancer and self-employed, I can try to create a lane where it serves me to my highest need, you know, and I don't have to make it, like you said, solely about just, you know, lack or abundance. I can make it about making choices that, you know, enhance life, you know what I mean, to myself and those around me. So yeah, man, and I think I'm just trying to learn from previous generations about family and life, and just find that balance, which I think we're always going to be pursuing in our life anyway, and how to best serve those around us, you know. So yeah, I don't want to be the one saying that I'm doing all of this, but then I'm not here, you know. And my mum told me something very powerful when my child came. She said, look, you know, I told your dad, listen, you know, the child's not going to remember how hard you work and what you bought him. It's going to remember whether you was there or not. So just make sure you're present, you know what I mean, kind of thing. Like, that's the best present you can give them, make sure that you're there, not just giving them stuff. Like, that stuff is nice, but it's you being with them that's going to create those memories and those bonds is what's going to enhance, you know what I mean. So she was like, okay mum, okay, I heard you loud and clear. So I was like, yeah, so I want to make sure that's a priority. So yeah,
Mums are coming through with that wisdom. Like, you got some,
yeah,
your mother, your wife, I'm sure you got the people around you. You got some amazing, smart women around you who are instilling certain things into you. But you're also listening to it, which is good, because we can be hard-headed sometimes. We're like, I know that. What are you telling something? But it's good, for real. And see, I want to pivot into like the church. Obviously, there's a church and the work you do with men. I want to start with the church first. Like, how did you get into the church? How did you find your faith, and why did you decide to create a church?
Yeah. I mean, like, so funny enough, at the same time where I was going into A levels, that was the same year where I got saved, gave my life to Christ. So that was age 17, December, New Year's Eve, 2006. So yeah, literally. So from that trajectory, like, there was a radical shift in my life, you know, just based on how I saw myself, I saw the world, and it gave me essentially my why to live in. Because before then, like I said before, I didn't really have any ounce of aspiration or purpose or meaning. You know, the man then was my world. Literally. So like, looking back, it's like, yo, literally that was it. Like, very short sighted, you know, it's just money, girls, and man then was family, literally. So so from that age, like, there was a radical shift in my life, literally. Like, when I say radical, like, a lot of things that I was doing before, I just dropped it all off. And I guess Christ just gave me a new zeal as to, you know, why I am here, my calling and whatnot. And so early on in my walk as a believer, that you know, there was a clear indication that I had a passion, you know, for people, and for ministry work. So starting from way back then, you know, serving on the media team at church, serving in the ushers team, doing certain things involved in ministry. Even back then, just like serving people, evangelizing. I was just always about people. Like, I had a genuine heart for people, like, boy or girl. So over the years, just involved in different ministries, and I was graced enough when I was at a church called CLF. I was on ministerial training, and one of the requirements was that you had to lead a cell group or some sort of a group outside of Sunday service. So that allowed me to pursue my passion that I had for men. And at that time, I was doing a lot of mentoring. You know, in our faith we call it discipleship, and I start to see a pattern where, I realized that, wow, you know what, my journey into manhood, which has a lot of its core in being a believer, the patterns, the struggles, the failures that I was going through, I was just seeing it repeated, across the board in different ways, but the same thing across a lot of men's life. And I realized, you know what, a lot of these guys don't have reference points, don't have framework, don't have other men that are just willing to be real and honest and transparent enough to share with them their failures and their woes and give them a path to see that, look, you can still change. That I thought, it's lacking. And obviously within the Christian world, there's so much women ministries everywhere. You can do that. It's a cherry pick, but the men's stuff, it's just like, it's very scarcity. And so at that point in time, me and my wife were getting, she was my fiance then, we were obviously getting to get married, and we were just giving like a few counsel, a few help to other friends and couples, and I saw a pattern where I was like, the man them were just moving a bit, hey, like, what's going on here? Like, that married with like my zeal to creating safe spaces for men to really express themselves, I was like, you know what? I said, babes, like, even though you lot are saying this guy's mad, I get it. And I understand him, because that was me also. He just needs a space where he can talk, express, and have other mature men that can speak to that, you know what I mean, kind of thing. Because telling him that he's whatever ain't gonna change him, but being able to speak to who he is and to speak to whatever it is that he's going through, it can give him that avenue where he can actually be able to be enlightened as to what's really going on and experience change. I say, you know what, I need to create a space where men can share all of that, and we can pour into them, and eventually we can create some sort of transformation work in their lives. So that's how 412 Men got birth. Literally, it was a double whammy. It was my passion for men, and what I believe was the cure to what I was seeing, mixed with the mantra that I was hearing about Christian guys and their values and their morals. And I think, something needs to change. I'm not a complainer, I'm a solutionist, you know what I mean? So I don't like to talk, I like to do. So I was like, you know what, we're starting it. And I started it June 2017 in London Bridge Prep. You know what I'm saying? It was just 4 black guys, and now we're like, on a Monday we average 50 or 60 black guys. Wow. So it's really, it's been powerful, man. Seeing so many crazy things in the last 5 years now, actually. So yeah, literally. So so that's the men's stuff. I know you asked about church stuff. So from there, as I was getting trained to be a minister, around maybe shortly after I got married, I was in a prayer meeting, and I felt the Lord impress in my heart that I should plant a church. So he sent one of my other friends who confirmed that, and my pastor also spoke to me that same week and confirmed that as well. And since that time, me and my wife, which is November 2017 up until October 2019, we just spent our time preparing for that next phase of our lives. So bear in mind, we're freshly married. So my wife, when she heard that, she was like, what are you talking about?
That's not what she signed up for. So she like...
Until like, we thought 5-6 years. Obviously, she's in ministry work as well, but we didn't think it was going to be that early. It's like, look, we just got married 3 months ago. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and me, I was in tears, because I was thinking, this is something that I knew God would call me to and spoken to me about in detail. And I'm like, wow, now is that time. And she was like, but eventually, she was able to come on board, and we both lead the church together. So, literally. So, our church is really geared towards the creative expression of the gospel, and we have a lot of actors, film directors, poets, anything creative you can think of, we have in our church. And our goal is just to create a space to train them to be lights in the industry, and for us to collaborate together as a community to creatively express the gospel in relevance to the culture of our days. So that's like our core sort of niche, or why as to why we exist. So 3 years in October this year. So that's a long and short of it version of it. So
That's
literally,
looking at what you've done with 412 Men, and looking at the church creation and that build up as well, and that progress over
yeah,
time, and bearing in mind that COVID has been there, and that still stayed strong, and
yeah,
that's kept them going. So that's no easy feat at all to be able to think about, pray about,
not at all.
birth with God putting people around you to confirm that, and then actually nurture over
Yeah,
that period of time. And you talked about like 412 Men and that you've seen that.
yeah.
I'm curious for you personally, have you always been a man who opens up and shares, or is that something that you had to
Oh,
learn as well?
I think yes and no. I think I lean more to I'm more of a feeler, 100%. I would say so, literally. So I think it was a lot more natural to me to kind of be a bit more softer in that area. If I'm honest. At the same time, I had a complex because of what I'm from the street. So you try to hide that and be, you know what I mean? So yeah, so but they'll tell you even back then, man, this smile was still there. You know what I mean? Like I was the cool guy. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of I was a mess, man. Literally. So there was clear. What's the word to use? Dysfunction, you know, to how I was expressing myself. One minute is, you know, a guy with anger issues. Next minute, a guy is just like, just life of the party sort of vibe. So, but I would say like, at my core, I'm a feeler, you know, so I think I had a bit more easier inclination to share. That had to also be nurtured as well, because, you know, obviously you got to develop trust, you know what I'm saying, all those sort of things. But I would say that I had a much more natural inclination towards it, where it wasn't that difficult, you know, like crying for me is not hard at all. Literally, all those sort of things that maybe, you know, statistically or, you know, culturally, they may say that men don't do. I identify those things hard to do, you know what I mean? If anything, I had to hold it down, if I'm really going to be honest with you. So I think that really helps with how I do what I do, because one of the main things that I think is the strongest point with 412 is that, you know, there is a culture of transparency and authenticity. You know, there's nothing that I'm gonna share or teach or speak on that I won't bring from a personal paradigm. You know, I will always make myself the first, you know, point of call as to what it is that I'm challenging them or confronting them about. You know, which is what a lot of the feedback has been as to why they come or why they relate or why they value what we do here. Because they feel like we're not scared to talk about the hard stuff, and then we'll also see in real life examples of what that actually looks like day to day. So I think that's really helped with what it.
If you were to switch off for a minute and be like, and forget that it's two black men talking, and to hear you actually replay that phrase, you wouldn't think you're talking about a group of black men coming together and having a conversation, because it's not something that's typical. I mean, you have a small circle of friends who might have that relationship. When a bigger, wider community, especially in the UK, and there's some stuff in Britain, States, especially in the UK, what you tend to hear of is the negative side of things, and whether it's the crime or it's the drama relationship or that kind of stuff. But you have been able to build and create something that everyone comes together, you're open, you're honest, you hold each other accountable, you lead from the front, lead by example, and you're modeling like real values which people ascribe to on a general basis. Like, what would you say has been the biggest thing that's helped to create and generate that trust and that psychological safety and that collaboration amongst all of you, aside from you leading from the front?
I think it leads back to my private life, you know, and then I'm gonna say private life now. I think it leads back to how I walk with God. You know, I think there's something tangible there of how I relate with Christ that really spills over into how I'm relating with people. Honestly, like people ask the question all the time. I don't want to give a cliche religious answer, but I'm just like, that's the plumb line, literally. Like, what I'm doing with the guys, I'm doing that with him. You know what I mean, kind of thing. And what I'm experiencing with him, I'm thinking, wow, I can give that to somebody else, which is grace. which is love, which is patience. You know what I mean? Kindness and compassion, and not judging them, but being a point of contact that can help them. So I feel like that dynamic it spills over into how I do what I do. Like honestly, like I said, when I got saved, that was the essence of my life, cultivating meaning and purpose and value. So all of the motivation really stems back from that, if I'm going to be really honest. And I think there's some parts of me that's innate in my gentleness and my kindness that I think that helps me, you know, just do what I do with the guys. If I'm going to be really honest with you, like, yeah, people ask this all the time, and I've tried to like coin some sort of answer, like that's like, no,
that's the realness.
But I'm only reflecting what I'm receiving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm also saying you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what I'm doing. Like, so that's how what I'm doing. I feel like it's so maybe unheard of because there's a substance to it that's not of self, but something eternal that's being really done inside of me that's having impact on people on a mass level, because we all need what I'm experiencing in private. You know what I mean? So publicly, I'm just gonna be a signpost to point that way into what I'm living, that you're seeing publicly, that you can also experience in private. You know, so yeah, man.
I think sometimes that can also be the difference between, you have people who, let me grow a crowd, let me grow an audience, let me grow a community, and you start to feed off the size and the popularity and the fame, rather than tapping straight into the source. Maybe this morning, me and my wife having the conversation, I was like, on a regular basis, we're going back and forth around, was Jesus an introvert, an ambivert, an extrovert? Like, this kind of conversation happened on a Monday morning in the house sometimes, yeah. Literally, I woke up with this on my mind. But anyway, but I was like, a lot of times Jesus withdrew and went to God, had that conversation with him, tapped into him, and then would come back into the crowd and do something. And rather than staying in the crowd and be like, yeah, look at me, he'll step away again. And exactly what you just talked about is exactly like that, where you're tapping back into the source, and all you're getting back from him, you're flowing into other people, and then you go back to the source. It's not about the group, it's not about the size, it's not about the fame and popularity. It's around just utilizing everything that God is putting inside of you, putting it out there, and seeing him do the great things he's going to do.
Because once again, it goes back to the whole substance versus appearances. And the funny thing about that description is that, you know, things can appear that they look good, but then when you examine the substance of it, it's not actually good. You know what I mean, kind of thing. So he's giving us an example whereby I'm gonna make sure that I'm rooted and grounded in who it is that I am, and that's, you know, his relationship with the Father, and that allows whatever is happening on a substantial level, on a substance level, to now exude, you know, on an appearance level or on a account level of other people. And I think sometimes, especially in this age of branding and marketing and everything looking good, it's so easy. The line's so thin, where especially if it's working, where if I can appear to be something that I'm not, I'll keep up the show, you know what I mean, kind of thing. And then if we see the time of our celebrities, like, and they always end up doing something crazy and mad, I'm thinking, well, why are you doing that? But it's because there's a disconnect between substance and appearance. They're not actually exhibiting who they are. They're just projecting an image that they see works for you, that they're trying to live off, you know what I mean? And eventually you can, as a human being, we can only live doing that so long before you crash, you know what I mean, kind of thing. So honestly, man, you know, that's why knowing your why is so important, and why is internal, you know what I mean. You don't always see it. You may see the what or the how, the method, but the why is always going to have, you know, it's good, the overarching thing is going to keep what it is they're doing authentic, you know, and cause it to actually last and end strong, you know. I can't, like, one of my goals is to end well, to finish strong. You know, I've seen so many people start, you know, so I think that's another area, actually, if I'm honest, as well, that keeps my eyes peeled, end strong, you know, finish well. And I realize that one day I'm going to give an answer for everything I'm doing, you know what I mean? So I want to be able to stand there with boldness and confidence that, you know, yeah, I finished. I did it well. You know what I'm saying?
Mum, I told you that my mum was going to come with the bars. You know, I was going to come with that bar. I was going to give you a little mini sermon, you know, just to get your mind moving.
Have substance. Literally, man. Literally.
Now you mentioned your wife later on, and I'm curious, what have been some of the biggest lessons you've learned from marriage?
Marriage, wow. Hey, biggest lessons. I think realizing that like marriage is like it's a gift where God gives you a mirror, which is your wife, and where you're being put in a scenario into a scene where you can't hide whatever it is that's in you or whatever it is that you're about. You're gonna see it, you know what I mean, kind of thing. So there's this up and close, delicate, work that's being done, for the betterment of you both, by the way, that happens in marriage. And having to reframe my mind, because it's not easy, where your flaws are being opened for both of you to see, and realizing that I'm able to work out my flaws in a safe space with a partner that's not against me but for me. So it's taught me love is not being strong, but being able to admit when I'm weak. So that's my real strength, that I can acknowledge that and share that, and not allow shame to close my mouth to that. I think that's one of the lessons that I've learned. I'm saying that the weakness that marriage may bring out of me, the flaws it brings out of me, I can share that. I can be naked and unashamed with someone that won't use it against me, by God's grace, and will help me, work through that. So you're seeing that love isn't always this clean, perfect, straight line. It's actually really messy. You know what I mean? It can look even ugly on the outside. You're thinking like, oh, what's all that? But it's that endurance, patience, kindness, is that pursuit of truth where, I'm not going to give up on you. I believe that there's something good out of all this murky mess I'm seeing. And so love just has that thing of energizing you to become, the best version of yourself. That's what I've learned so far, or experienced so far. So receiving that and giving that, you know what I mean? That's a journey and the battle you have. Because some days you're just like, woman, leave me alone, you know what I mean? Or child, man, you have your days, innit? Yeah, I'm sure you know. Yeah. So just like, but 100%. Yeah, I'm saying, but then, love becomes, bypasses being a feeling or some sort of experience, but this conviction and this statement, this belief of where, you made a vow, you made a commitment, you and this person are committed to a bond that will sometimes spark, and those sparks are for your good, you know what I'm saying? Get the right perspective and then, work on that together, and so and doing that in community, people that you trust that can help you as well, because sometimes you can't help each other, or sometimes you're both down, you know what I mean? And somebody needs to help come and, lift you guys up as well, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's what I was saying, and I'm sure of it.
Does that require you as a man doing some self-work first, even before you've either met your partner, before you've got married? Because you've been able to open up to someone, and those faults and flaws, it's not an easy thing to do, especially when there's a lot of ego involved. And even like you said, especially when you're coming from the streets, we got that bravado side of us. So to be able to let down our guard, to be like, I am going to trust you with this, and I'm going to trust you enough to know that you're not going to use it against me. Instead, you're going to love me through it and nurture me through it and be my rock, just like I'm going to be yours. So all those different things you just mentioned, it still sounds like it requires some real work that you need to do for yourself, which you can't wait or let that person do for you. You have to do for you.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I mean, even with everything I'm saying now, it was a journey, because it wasn't always straightforward to share like that, I feel like I didn't even have maybe the bandwidth or the language, if I want to be honest with you. Like, my relationship with my wife has definitely increased my emotional intelligence, to be really honest, because she's not able to ask me certain questions that I wouldn't necessarily answer, i.e. how did that make you feel? I ain't figure out how it made me feel. I'm just telling you what it did, what I don't like, and don't do it again. You know what I mean? Just very straight to the point. Nobody cares about how it made me feel. I'm not here to express like that. I'm just here to say, to correct it and just say, like, this next time, do this, you know what I mean, kind of thing. So I said the long and short of it, honestly. So it's really funny, because I feel like how many women are wired. It's so intriguing when it comes to this area, literally. So I feel like the self-work you're talking about is very real, you know what I'm saying. So before, when I was younger, I did used to actually journal a lot, and I stopped for a long period of time, and I have started doing it again now, and I think that has been a big help. It just comes just to being a bit more, you know, intertwined with what you feel, a bit more, a bit more self-awareness has grown a lot through that
practice.
You know, I've done counselling before as well. That helps with the whole being able to understanding yourself a lot more. So, and you know what, like, when you experience being loved, it makes that, it unlocks something in you that allows you to share something you wouldn't naturally do. So I feel like most times, I'm honest, my sharing has been a response. And I always tell my wife that as guys, sometimes, or most times, providing that right environment, you know, for us to express, so it's very crucial, you know, how you say it, when you say it, you know. These are all women are different. It's like they're coming from work, they want a dossier report. Like, they can give you a dossier. For us, like, coming from work, I just want to do something to just kind of yeah, I'm saying to chill, you know what I mean. So it's understanding our unique differences, not making it seem, well, you're not whatever, that, but working towards our differences and being able to say, okay, cool, what can I provide that can allow those differences to still find expression in how it is that I want from them, which is, you know, she wants me to share more about how I feel. Okay, there's certain times when I can do that, you know. Sometimes it's been like after we've had sex, you know, it's like my car's a lot more down, a lot more, you know, emotionally inclined. Sometimes maybe, you know, we've maybe actually intentionally booked a time this evening to, like, just to check in with ourselves. So before, we used to do like marriage check-in, like every Sunday morning or evening. So like, how do you feel this week? You know, oh, what's this? How does it, you know, that's making it a candid, casual conversation about how you feel, what you like, what you didn't like, you know, where you are with marriage, you know, where, so that check-in, because you know how busy it is with what we do, we can easily just keep moving. So little practices like that, exercises like that, just allow you to be a bit more in tune with one another. And I think that really just helped me as a guy to be a bit more intentional about really, like, okay, how do you actually feel, you know what I mean, kind of thing. So so I think exercises, that's being exposed to certain things that may not be natural to me, or something that I would, you know, normally do, that helped give language, because I think we're all emotional. It's just about expression of it, right? And maybe having the bandwidth to know, you know, how to quantify those emotions and you know, speak it in a way that, you know, the other person can understand that, and you know, and then maybe reframe your mind to knowing that that's not being weak or being a little boy. Like, sharing how you feel is something really strong. So I think, yeah, the self-work element, it would definitely come into play, and sometimes it just may look like this practicing little things that just help you be a lot more self-aware and to learn language, to express yourself and so forth. So it's definitely a journey, you know. So yeah.
Definitely.
I hope that helps.
I would say that for me, like, marriage has been the biggest learning curve that has made the biggest impact in my life in every single shape. Like, from whether it's professional work, parenting, wherever it is, like, I've learned so much, and I still keep on learning so much, because, like you said, it's a journey that's never done. We are always growing and evolving as people, and the fact that you keep on learning more is actually a good thing. When you feel like you've learned everything you need to learn, that means either you're not growing, or your partners are growing, and therefore it's a sign of something wrong. So definitely co-sign that. And obviously now you're a father of a 6-week-old beautiful baby. Like, yeah, man. So I'm going to ask you a question my wife asked me. In fact, before we had our kids, like, what kind of father do you want to be?
Jeez. Oh my gosh. What kind of father? I mean, you know what was funny? The other day, I think when people ask me this sort of question, I was just like, you know what? I want to fight the temptation not to, you know, give my son everything I didn't have, but realizing that this is a whole new entire being where I want to give him what he needs. You know, because I feel like the repeated trauma or the whatever we're experiencing is us just walking in cycles of just trying to fill gaps that we didn't have into someone else that's brand new that may have completely different needs, and we're just repeating doing things that just like, you know what, nah, I'm actually going to serve my son the way that he needs me to serve him, rather than trying to live out my life through him, you know what I mean, kind of thing. So I was just determined to be a dad that could be an example, and obviously my definition of leadership is leading by example. I want to be able to become become a reference point as to like, this is how you can do what it is that you are called to do, literally. And that may not be the same thing as me, but it will have certain principles and values that you can carry into what you do, and that will ensure that you're following the pattern and tradition of what it means, you know, to be a son, literally. So that's where I'm at with it, you know. Honestly, I'm just framing my mind to realize that my experience is wisdom, and it doesn't have to be something that I try to like say, okay, I got to do this because I didn't have this. I've got to realize that there's stuff that this guy needs that I have to discover and be intentional in journeying with, and that comes by being present and being very much involved with him and serve him to the best of my ability in those areas. And I think I had to overcome, if I'm really honest, the fear of failure, of like knowing that, you know, the reality is you're gonna end up failing him in certain areas, and that's not the be all or end all. You gotta be man enough to own those failures and allow those failures that you experience with him to become his lessons. Honestly, because my life, that's the biggest fear I ever had in my whole life, is failing. I was obsessed with not being a failure, and so reclaiming that in this paradigm of being a father was very, very key for me, because then I know that if I don't get it right, the energy I have towards being a father will be engineered by that fear, which will ultimately allow me to become what it is that I fear the most. So that's what I would say.
It's interesting to hear you say you had a fear of failure. Because
yeah.
you started a company. You started 412 Men, you started a church, you started a number of different endeavors.
Yeah.
And they've gone well, you've sustained them, different things like that. So it's very interesting to hear you say you have a fair failure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where it comes from. I don't know if it's spiritual or whatever, but there's just this thing. It's one thing I can remember from young. That's the fear of failure. So I don't know if it's intertwined with my relationship with my dad and whatever. I don't know, but just this fear of just like making sure that I have to be. I don't want to fail. Literally, like, so. That's I feel one of the longest memories I have, like just always being able to show up and to succeed. So it's weird, because when you start listening to that stuff, I'm like, yeah, my life doesn't actually look like that. But that's the irony of the very thing that will work against you based on what you're called to do. You know what I mean? So in one way, I'm not surprised that I would have that fear, but be one of them, you know, probably, you know, one of the most high producers with what I'm doing and stuff. So I feel like that's the lie that if I believe may have stopped me from starting anything. You know what I mean? Kind of, and it's the lie that still hinders around that tries to learn me or learn what I'm doing to not, you know, end up finishing well or ending well. So it's something that I make sure that I reframe and renew my mind to what it means, you know, and realizing that my failure is not in what I do. You know what I mean? I am successful because of who I am, you know what I mean? So yeah, literally, and just realizing that failures are lessons, like, you know, it's an event, not a person, you know what I mean, kind of thing. So that's very crucial, you know what I mean? So if anything, I'm grateful for losses, because there are actually lessons on how to do something. But I learned something new about myself that I would never have learned unless I tried, you know what I mean? So then that's the main thing. So yeah,
bro. This has been a joy. Like this has been a joy, because like I said at the start, like there's so much that you've traversed and so many experiences that you've had in different walks of life. Yeah. And the way that you kind of bring them all together, and it all goes back to, I want to say, that 17-year-old you going on that journey of change. And there's a statement that says that we always tend to create or provide things that we didn't have. And that's what you've done with like 412 Men and the church and the journey. I mean, even when you're talking as a husband and a father and things like that, you're very intentional around the way that you're approaching things. And it's great to be able to talk to a man, a black man, who is leading a community in a way that's very, very different to the norms of the world. And I just want people to know more about you. One, for those of you who want pictures taken at your wedding, my man's already giving you a deadline here. So if you really want that, like, you need to get on that. But then it's also around the other elements and areas that you do, like it's whether it's the teaching, whether it's the work you're doing commercially. Those who know about Black Business Week, there's amazing like just BC profiles. This is the man behind it, or the different images that you're gonna see when it comes in October again. This is the man behind it. There's so many things that you are doing in all walks of life, and it's great to be able to hear you just talking about your thought pattern, talking about your faith and how that nurtures and reaches you, talking about being a husband and a father, and a lot of elements that are not heard of a lot and need to be heard of a lot more. So really, really appreciate just the candor and the honesty that you brought today, because I knew it was going to be good. You know, I knew it was already going to be good. But, you know, I came out of the start, like, so like, what are the notes? I'm like, we're not doing notes here. We're going to have a conversation, because I want to get the real you, where you're just thinking as I'm asking you questions. And that's exactly what you did, man. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
It's an honor and a privilege to be on here, honestly, man. You know, thank you, man. Even having this conversation is refreshing to myself, because, you know, when you're always producing or creating and whatnot, you don't take the time to sit back and be like, whoa, you know, like, okay, you know, so to hear what you're saying from somebody else to myself, just really reaffirmed and really just, you know, just really refreshing to be just like, you know what, the stuff that's happening that I'm doing, that's, you know, it's having an effect, you know, so it's beautiful. Like, I know that, but it's always good to hear it, if that makes sense. So yeah, so really thankful for the conversation. You know, it's been refreshing, man. It's been good. You know, once again, it's an honor and a privilege to be on this platform as well, man. You're doing great things with this, man. So, everyday leadership to the world, global, man.
Amen. Claiming that, man. Claiming that,
man. Really is global, fam. Apart from you can join Elon Musk in Mars as well.
But all the details around Ayo, the wonderful work he does, so around his company, the church, the community, different things like that, it's all going to be available in the show notes. It's someone that you definitely want to get involved with, because he is going to change the way you look at things. That is Ayo. It's Everyday Leadership. I will see you next week.